Okay, everybody, welcome to the Tuesday lunch break in the Joyful Feminist group. I am Mary Langfield, your host, and today I am so excited. Now, we have someone who there's a lot of different really exciting things that this particular human has done, but I found her on Facebook. No, I found her on Instagram, and I'm just was super drawn to what she's up to, not just because of 2020, but what she's doing is she's really empowering and impacting kids' lives, and not just the kids' lives, right? She's also impacting the lives of families, like at a really, really deep level. So I am so excited to welcome Danielle Barbee. She is she is a math teacher and an owner of Tailored to Your Learning. And so she started out in education back in 2010, and she's taught high school math for 5 years. And she's been successful in helping her students close multiple years of achievement gaps and helping them gain confidence. And what's super cool is you'll find out she can do this really quickly, right? So she's been, she has this 5 years of teaching experience. However, she switched careers, and she began also working as a cost analysis analyst at the Missile Defense Agency. So she's she's done a lot of really cool, interesting work. She is glad she did this because she was able to experience something new, meet new people, and use her logic and analysis skills in different ways. But of course, she still had this driving need and desire to work with students and to help them with their academic goals. So in 2017, she started this tutoring company. So she has 11 years of tutoring experience. She's successfully helped several students achieve their academic goals from elementary school all the way to college level. So I'm so excited to have you here, Danielle. And I totally stalked her on Instagram and said, I would love to interview you. Would you be interested? And she's like, okay, whatever. But we were chatting, and Danielle has a really amazing story. And so could you just share a little bit about this? Actually, we just were chatting before we got started here, and she was just sort of saying how school was very easy for you, right?
Mhm.
But but there was a little something that you noticed when you started kind of operating and at different levels about your education. So could you share that with us?
Yes. First, I want to say thank you for having me. But yes, so when I was in high school, well, elementary all the way up, I was a intelligent kid. I was the nerdy one out of all of my friends. I took all honors courses. I played sports. I was really involved. But what I didn't realize until I got to college was that I didn't make real connections with the learning like I should have. I didn't know how to learn independently. Like I could listen, take notes. I was very organized, okay, which is very important to academic success. But I was able, I could listen to the teacher, I could take my notes, I could stay focused, I can do my homework, I'm gonna stay on task and do everything that's asked of me. But I never went that extra mile, to look up information or make connections with my learning. And it was when I got to college when I had to do that. Like that was, you're in college, you have those professors who they can come in, they can talk about whatever it is they want to talk about for that hour or hour and a half. And then they're like, okay, test next class over these 3 chapters. And it's like, what? Like, how am I supposed to be prepared for this? So that caused me to learn how to become an independent learner, read these chapters for myself, look up the information in other places and research to make better connections so I could remember the information better. And when I started teaching, it became clear to me that a lot of young students are also missing that skill and they don't know how important that is to success, not in just academics, but even at work. Like when I worked for the Missile Defense Agency, my boss was like, okay, here's our manual, read it and, tell me what you think, write down some things that you noticed. And so
Mhm.
I was like, okay. So, even in the workforce, like you have to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that it's just a really telling thing that so many of us sort of forget about, because when you're in school, you're just kind of like you're in that system, and
Mm-hmm.
you do things the way school tells you to do them, and either you succeed easily, or you really suffer, or you
Mm-hmm.
just keep plodding away. I mean, everybody has their method. And so I'm going to share, guys, and I shared this a little bit earlier with Danielle, but like I don't know that I had technically any learning disabilities or not, but as a young person, I just wasn't able to make these connections. I struggled all the time. And eventually I had tutors, I was held back. I had all of these challenges as a young person in school. And then of course there's all the like the bullying and all the stuff that goes with this. So to me, empowering kids to feel like they can handle school, enjoy school, and because I love to learn. If any of them, anybody who knows me, I love to learn. I'm actually really great at learning, but I had to figure out my own method on my own, kind of. And so that fact that you're here and you're offering kids basically these keys. You're offering them these keys that isn't just to like access their intelligence, but it's to help them operate in the world and interact with people at different various levels. And to me, I just feel like that is such a gift. So you're like not only empowering the kids and their education, but I'm sure that this like bleeds into everybody's family life, right? Because like it's
Mm-hmm.
stressful on the parents, it's stressful. So if you could just speak to anything around this amazing work that you do, and that I know you have a team already. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
guys, she's amazing. She already has a team, and she has to lead them. So just tell us a little bit about like this progression that you see either with kids and how they like grow in all the areas, or even with the parents. Just share with us.
Well, the biggest thing that comes to my mind that I try to really preach is reading. Okay. My company started out 3 years ago as Math Solutions, right? Where we only did math tutoring because math is my background. However, 2 years ago, we did a rebrand and we added in all subjects. And reading was very important to me because a lot of parents are like, yes, my kid struggles in math. And I'm like, but can they read? Because the first thing a lot of kids tell me, word problems. I am really just struggling with word problems. Oh, can you read it? How's your reading comprehension skills? Are they up to par? And then you'll find out, oh, they're having troubles with math because of reading. And so I find a lot of parents are not quick to say that their child is having trouble reading or comprehending what they read, which that is the whole key to learning. And you talked about how, me being gifted. And I think that's one of my gifts. I feel like I can learn anything because I can read. And so what I found, what I try to, show kids is how you can read and make connections with learning, how to research. And that's been the biggest struggle with virtual learning this year. A lot of parents and kids are frustrated because they don't know how that they may be lacking in comprehension skills, or they don't know how to, well, if I have a question about a particular subject, content, whatever it is, all I can do is just look it up, right? That's what I did in college. Google was my best friend, right? So I look, and I tell people, they're like, well, Googling is cheating. No, it's not. That's a skill. You need that skill. People in the workforce who make six figures, they Googling stuff. The boss tells them, hey, can you do this for me? Can you make this spreadsheet? Can you do that? They are Googling, well, how can I put these codes in Excel to make it do this? They're Googling. That's a skill, knowing how to do that. And so I try to, well, look it up. Sometimes we forget how important organization is too, and time management, being on a schedule. you know, just all these things come into play, with virtual learning, stuff that I've been preaching, before for years is now very important to people because we're in a position now where we've got to learn from home, and we have to do things for ourselves. So that's mainly what we try to do with my company, is show students, you know, how to make connections with the learning, how to apply it in their daily lives, how to become, giving them skills to become lifelong learners and, productive citizens.
I really appreciate that because this idea of making connections and being able to comprehend,
Hmm.
because it's like like I remember being a young kid and my dad would say, well, what was the story about? And I almost felt like it was being put on the spot as though I obviously I wouldn't know. I just read the story, but
Hmm.
why are you asking me what the story is about? Like I didn't even understand how to like the only idea is just what was it about? Just say it. And I
Right.
thought it was like a trick question, and I was like, I don't know. So
Yes.
so just this idea of empowering the kids to have that confidence in themselves to know this is what I understand about it. These are the questions that I have about it after the fact, and like letting them kind of sift through that.
And you saying that, like, you're thinking, oh my God, what's the right answer? I don't think I have the right answer. Like, what are they looking for? No, that's a part of making connections. How did you feel about what you read? Like, what was it about to you? Because we could read the same story and have two different perspectives, right? Because
Right.
of our life experiences, and the way things affect us, then that's going to decide our perception about the stories we read, and so that's another thing, making kids feel like it's okay to make mistakes, but there's not just one right answer. Like,
Yeah.
if I ask you, what did you just read, or what was that about? What did it mean to you? you know, Not what you think I want you to say. It's just, how did it affect you?
Yeah, and I think that this is really a key piece, like empowering kids, helping them learn, but letting them know like their opinions are important.
Mhm.
Maybe they're not the be all end all, right? But
Right.
but having an opinion is pretty cool, and being able to voice your opinion is pretty cool. Does it mean it's right? No, it doesn't. But it means that you have the confidence to speak up and to use your voice and to share what you know. And I think that obviously typically, right, like boys have an easier time traditionally, but I know that all kids, have this challenge of being able to walk into whether it's a classroom, whether it's like their favorite subject or a tougher subject or sports, like they all deserve to feel a little bit more empowered and feel confident in whatever they're doing. And I love that this is where your business you know, excels. I mean, it's not you do so many things. So, can you just speak to I have several other questions because there's a few other things you just have to know about what I know, which is just like the tiniest little scratch. But can you share this expanded view of like as somebody like let's say as a mother or as a
Mhm.
father who's like identifies my kid needs help and support, right?
Mhm.
Like that could also with if that parent could have some serious their own confidence issues around education, right? And what their own experience and it's colored them and now they're worried or they're like don't know why their kid can't live up to their standards and how it was for them, right? There's just like probably a huge spectrum. So could you just speak to this idea of how your company stepping in, supporting this kid can support the whole family? I would just love to hear more about that.
Ooh, I've seen, you talk about kids not meeting parents' expectations, and I've seen both ends. So I have some parents, they're like, look, I know math, I got degrees, I'm smart, but me and my kid, no. So we need your help. So, and I've also talked to parents that are like, and I hate it, like, oh, I hate to hear this. And any moms out there, be conscious when you do this. I'll talk on the phone and they're like, well, the kid looks really good on paper. Like, they have a 3.8 GPA, they've scored a 25 on the ACT, which is not bad because I have some kids, they scoring 14s, and they're like, well, they just need so much help because, just being really negative. Like
Yeah.
they could do just so much better. And he really needs to make this score in order. And it's like, okay. And that's where I have to coach parents too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, and I have to make them realize, listen, we talked tonight about college applications and we researched colleges and requirements and we wrote them down. And I made them go back and say, look where you are now and check off how many colleges you can get into just right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, really? Okay. Yes. Like you doing something, like you,
Mm-hmm.
it's not all bad. And so I find myself having to do both. Like I have to coach kids and parents as well. And so, yeah. So we try to, you know, I try to tell my tutors, make connections, which some of my tutors are teachers, so they already get it. Half the battle in being a good teacher is developing rapport and relationships with your students. And then I also have some college and even high school students who tutor. And I'm like, make that connection with them. Ask kid, how you doing today? What happened at school? Oh, okay. And then I'll find after a few sessions, they'll come in and say, Miss Danielle, guess what happened at school today? Like, and they're more, they're willing to talk to us more about things because we're being positive with them and creating a safe space to say, okay, it's okay to mess up. I'm gonna direct you back to the light. But also, how you feeling today? And I've had some sessions I had to stop because the kid didn't get the test score that they wanted and they were just in tears. And it was like, okay, I had to coach emotions,
Mm-hmm.
academics, just all of that. And so when kids feel safe and comfortable with you, they'll tell you everything, and it's like, wait, I don't want to hear that. I don't even know that because, yeah, you know, but they will, like, they'll tell you everything. And I really think that's like the best part about tutoring. It's just making those connections. And some parents are like, I don't know what y'all did, but my kids asking when we going back to tutoring tomorrow, like, and I love hearing that, because we try to have fun, it's not just let's get right down to work. What you got to do, we try to create those relationships. So yes, I have to coach parents as well as students, because sometimes, parents can be hard. We're hard on ourselves anyway, but we could be hard on our kids. And it's like, wait a minute, they're doing okay. They may not have a 30, but they got a 25. So that's fine. They're working with something. They can do better, but be positive, about it. That's because I find a lot of those students that have those negative parents, they don't tell those parents anything. And that's what the parents tell me. Well, they didn't tell me this, I have no idea. I see why. I wouldn't talk to you either because everything that you have described to me was so negative. And when I met the kid, I was like, no, I don't see that. But so that's been my experience there.
I think that what you're kind of also expressing is this idea that, you know, kids really form like an identity, right? Like this is
Mm-hmm.
who I am. Either I'm like the brainiac, I'm the smart one, I'm not the smart one, or I'm like the black sheep of the family. Or I mean, these things start young, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they can, and they're probably passed down from the parents having their own stuff from their own parents. And so it's just like this general idea of just being as kind and loving as possible and letting kids be who they are. And the fact that, tutoring can be an avenue to healing not just your relationship with learning, but like
Mm-hmm.
your relationship to yourself. And I just I just really appreciate that you're offering the kind of that full on experience of really seeing the kid for what they have to offer and where they can go versus like this idea, because and I can't imagine it could be any other way, but I know that it's true, is that you could walk in and a tutor could be like, whatever, you're not even worth my time, and like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that if that is how the person is already thinking and believing to have like the truth about this kid before they've ever met them, it's just it's so disappointing. I'm going to tell you a story. I'll make it really short, but I went and I taught English in South Korea after college, and I didn't actually, I didn't have a teaching degree. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I do remember very clearly this woman who I was replacing, and she
Mm-hmm.
told me that kid is the worst. That kid, I mean, these are like 6-year-olds, okay?
Mm-hmm.
She's like,
Mm-hmm.
"That he's the worst, he's the worst, he's the worst." And I was like, I didn't know anything, but I was like, if I treat him already like she's telling me he is, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that there's hope for me. So
Right.
I just went in there pretending everything's great, and I kept telling the kids, "We're all friends. We all take care of each other. We maybe sometimes we do things we don't like, but we share it." We had a great year. He was a great kid. He had a couple outbursts, but like if I had gone in there just choosing to believe he was this terrible child who was 6, I would have had a really hard year. And this teacher did.
Mm-hmm.
But even the kids had more fun with this kid. So like just the idea of being able to empower and change that energy by just offering a different view. I think that's really cool with what you're doing. Now, I know there's
Yes.
so many other things to talk about, but I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this story that you shared with me. So, this Joyful Feminist group is all about empowering women and seeing other people's awesome gifts, getting in touch with their wellness in all the different avenues, getting in touch with their intuition, and being in touch with their like spiritual divine connection. So
Okay.
can you please, that because I think this story is incredible, can you please tell us about, you're launching into this like tutoring business, and you're going to do like this grand opening, and it's going to be all these things, and tell us about how this went.
Well, first of all, you know, I'm an introvert. I don't know if y'all get that or not. I'm an introvert. I'm very laid back. I'm just like, cool. You know, if you know me, you know me. If you don't, okay. I'm just very laid back. So having a grand opening was nowhere on my mind, because I'm not one of those people who's going to throw a party. Like my husband and I are total opposites. He's people person, me, I'm like chill. So we got our space. This was after we rebranded and changed the name to Tailor to Your Learning. And one of my students at the time, I just hired her as a tutor because she was a brainiac. Her mom was just sending her to me so that she could make sure she was staying on track. And I felt like, oh my goodness, she would help people while being at tutoring. So I was like, she could totally tutor. So anyway, she was like, Miss Danielle, you should have one of those parties. I was like, a party? What do you mean? She was like, where people come. I was like, oh, like a grand opening. She said, yes. I said, okay, cool. Write out some ideas, write some things down, let me know, and then I'll start thinking and we could get it going. So she wrote some things down. I planned a date. I was like, let's do this. Yeah, you know, back to school bash. That's what I called it. And so I was like, yeah, I decorated my office, really nice. I ordered these baked goods. I was revamping my website. I had t-shirts. We already had t-shirts, but I needed more because I was like, yeah, I can sell t-shirts, and had a DJ come in, those what do you call them, bounce house things. I had all, just food, everything. So we advertised for like a month. Okay. I didn't get this together like fully until like a month before, and I started advertising just 1 month out prior to the date. So I get to the Friday night before the event. The lady that's doing my baked goods, the only reason why I wanted those was because I wanted my logo, to be on something. I wanted these like school snacks. I wanted my website to be done so that I could give a place for people to go to, to book and say, hey, this is our new website that we're launching. And I ordered t-shirts. Well, the next morning I get up and my family is in town. I'm so grateful for them. So my mom came in town, my in-laws came in town. They were there to help, and I go to pick up my baked treats. And the lady was like, the logos didn't come in time. And I was like, okay. So I was like, that's one thing. But I was like, hey, at least we got treats. Okay. All right. Then the lady who was doing my website, she was like, I was asking her questions about the booking and the scheduling thing. And she was like, no, she had another engagement, so she couldn't really finish that. So I had to real quick rely on, an old system that I used. So I was like, let me get this back in order and on track before event time. My t-shirts did not come. It's just all these things were going wrong. And it rained that day. And I got bouncy houses and a DJ outside, right? So, yeah. But anyways, one of my tutors was there. My mom was there. And I'm telling them all this stuff, that's going wrong. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, whatever, everything's happening. Then another thing I forgot about, the electrical sockets. So, I got a DJ and some bouncy houses, right? And I'm like, there's some outlets on the outside of the building. None of them worked. So I'm like, But anyways, we had to improvise. The event went on. The DJ got set up. The bouncy houses got set up. The people came. We talked. I consulted with parents. I fed people. People signed up. I had more people signed up at the beginning of the school year than I did the previous year, that whole year of tutoring.
So, this is so, I love this story because you have obstacle after obstacle, challenge
Mm-hmm.
after challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and you just trusted that, hey, it's gonna be fine. I mean, I know it wasn't stressful, right? It wasn't like, yay, this is so
I was
great.
like, is this really happening
But
today? But
look,
I was like, we're gonna roll on.
I
We're
know,
gonna roll with it.
look at what happened. You had
Mm-hmm.
the biggest enrollment,
Mm-hmm.
and just you chose to take action.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said, "Hey, Miss Danielle, you should really do that thing." Said, "Okay, give me some ideas," and then you just went with it, and you
Mm-hmm.
trusted in the powers that be to help support you. Your family was there, challenge after challenge, and you still just were because you could have had a totally different energy, and you would not have brought the same success, I believe, right? Of
Right.
because the parents would have felt it. They'd have been
Mm-hmm.
like, "Ugh," and you were just like, "It is what it is,"
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, I was like, we gotta roll with it. Like, the day is here, people are coming. Like at 12 o'clock, it was supposed to start, and I looked out the door and there were people walking in. I'm like, hey, we here now. We got to do it. And it was great. Like, I'm glad, I did it. And it helped me, in the future, be able to plan better,
Yes,
think
right? You
about
learned from it.
yeah, like what went wrong so that I know not to do that again.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and like I said before, this whole year has been like that for me. Like,
Yeah.
since the pandemic started, I mean, I had to close my brick and mortar that I had, and we went 100% virtual. And I've had more success doing that than when we were in the office. Like, I had parents dropping off, like, hey, my hours are getting cut at my job, so I'm gonna have to cut out tutoring. And I was like, oh, okay, but the summer hit and people were rolling in, and I'm very appreciative. Like, now I'm at the point where it's like when I'm uncomfortable or when things go bad, I'm like, something good is coming out of this. Like,
Yeah.
I just know it is. Like, I'm telling this whole 2020, I went to Costa Rica. I had the best start to the year. I threw my husband a surprise birthday party in January.
I bet
I
he
went to
loved that.
Costa Rica in March and had the best time. And it was like as soon as I got back from Costa Rica, bad things just started happening. And I was just rolling with it. Like, okay, it's fine. We're gonna get through this. It's fine. And
So,
business is still rolling.
and I think what's really important about you having that mindset
Hmm.
is that you are empowered, like just innately, you empower the kids with this mindset of,
Right.
hey, guess what? Things don't always go to plan. It's
Mm-mm.
okay. It'll work itself out. We will figure it out. And that in and of itself, like that kind of a learning is invaluable, right? Because it doesn't
Right.
matter where in your life you end up coming up against these obstacles or these challenges, and you've kind of infused, maybe even with osmosis, right? Like they've just sort of gotten this idea from this, I mean, even if they don't work directly with you, it trickles down through all of the people that work for you and like, hey, let's just work through this.
Hmm.
Right. And granted, we've everybody, like the whole, everyone, the whole world has had to kind of figure out this virtual learning. So that is another piece I would love for you to kind of talk about, like virtual learning and the frustrations that everybody feel around that. Like, I think you mentioned that you had some things that you're really, um, I don't know if I would say proud, but you're really like, we do this well, even in the virtual learning environment.
So yeah, I have a lot of parents. I've been doing virtual tutoring for a couple years. Like one of my tutors, she told me the other day, she was like, when they first everybody's talking about Zoom, she was like, Miss Danielle been using Zoom. I was like, yes. But you have parents, they were so like, I'm like, yeah, I offer online tutoring. And they say, well, no, they kind of need somebody in person. I'm like, well, it's kind of like this the same, as being in person. I can share documents. I can, we can write on the screen. I could teach them with a whiteboard. It's the same as being in a classroom. And so we just we took what we do in person and put it online. We teach the same way. We use the same resources. We just implement it through Zoom and we still see the same results, in a month. Usually I've seen results in like a few weeks, to a month, but it just depends on the child and how much, work needs to be done. But there's just a few things, sometimes it's just one little connection that the kid needs to make or one little thing that they need practice with. And then they're rolling. We had a kid last summer came to us and I think he had failed sixth grade math, but the principals told them if he comes to our tutoring program for the summer, that would make up for summer school, So he came to us and I figured out, okay, he does not know how to multiply, he can't divide, he can't add and subtract fractions, like the simple, foundational things that you need for math. So we worked with him on that. And after that summer, his dad was like, oh my gosh, he's making all A's in seventh grade math. Like he understands, like he's jumped a grade and he's making A's now because of those few connections, that he was missing. And he was so much more confident. He wasn't, at first, he was a behavioral problem in class, but now he's not, which I've seen that too. A lot of
Mhm.
times when kids are having behavioral issues, if your kid is, acting out in class, it's because they don't know what to do. The teacher is teaching stuff and it's like foreign to them. So what do I do? Act out. I'm gonna show out so you put me out of class and I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to listen to it. But when they understand it, they're involved, they're excited, they're answering questions, you know, and so those are the kind of results that we've seen in person and online. Um, so
I love that, and I think that that is one of those things that people like you forget. Like,
mhm,
oh, maybe he or she is just struggling in school and they're not actually a behavioral, like they're just
mhm,
they just need some support and attention, and
mhm,
So I love that. So can you give us some ideas? Because I think, diving into this idea of, let's say that you need support for your kids, which we've already kind of talked about, it can also be really helpful for the teachers, like
Hmm.
their actual teachers. It can be helpful for the whole family because they can all have a deep sigh of relief, like, wow, my kid is excelling. They actually like school. They're enjoying things. They're doing
Hmm.
better than they ever had. Like the future's looking really bright. So there's like so many reasons why adding a tutor to your life can be so beneficial to not just the individual child, but to like the whole and the community. So what are some like tutoring misconceptions that you hear a lot?
Um, the one that sticks out the most is if I need a tutor, that means I'm stupid. And it's like, no, not at all. That's not what that means. Tutors provide support, to the parent, the teacher, and the child. Teachers have, and I'm a teacher now, so I know teachers have at least 30 kids in one class. So there is no way I will be able to reach all 30 kids every day. There will be some lessons that I teach, everybody will get it, and I won't have any questions. Sometimes there will be lessons that I teach, I may have to reiterate with the whole class because all the hands are going. And then after I've retaught, then there may be a few more, and then whoop, time has run out. I'm over here helping so and so, I'm over here helping them, and this kid's had his hand raised, and it's like time to go to the next class. So
Mhm.
they didn't get their questions answered for the day. And so, what a tutor can do, which is what we do, tailored to your learning, we tailor it to the student and parent. Whatever the priority is for that day, that's what. Now we can put things together and say, okay, I know from a diagnostic, this is what this kid needs to work on. But if you got homework or things that you're struggling on, or you got a test tomorrow, let's review, and make sure that you can excel on the test, or what connections can I make for you to help you be successful tomorrow, or, to get you through that homework assignment. So the parent is not like, or if it's a Monday, you got a project due on Friday. What do you have due this week in class? Well, I have a project. So instead of that student, on Facebook all the time, I see parents, they write statuses and they're like, so my daughter just told me that she has a project due tomorrow and it's 8:30, at night. And so now we got to run to Walmart and we got to. A tutor can provide that extra support. We can also tell the parent, this is what we saw. Even if the kid doesn't tell us, we saw this in their daily planner from school, or we saw this on the agenda. They have a project due this week. Now we helped them start. This is what they need to do to finish. If you need any support, let us know. They need an extra session this week, let me know. You know, so we provide support for everybody, and it doesn't mean you're stupid. We provide enrichment. you know, um, we help kids realize, some kids, some of them think they know everything, and then they'll get to this one thing and they're really struggling and they're not sure why and they're so frustrated. And then it's like, it takes us to say one thing and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I didn't realize that. And it's like, yeah, we just help pull those extra things out, that they may not have thought about, and give them methods and ways to just be better overall. We all have room for improvement. So we just try to, pinpoint those things that need improving while growing, the areas that where they're strong. So we kind of work at those things at the same time.
Yeah, so it sounds like kind of the biggest thing is just like the only reason you would need a tutor is if you're stupid,
Right.
right?
And no,
And that's
that's not
obviously not it.
that's
No.
not what that means. No.
And what I think that's really special about your business is that you have, again, you've even named it tailored to your need,
Mhm.
but like but tailor to your learning, but like, this idea that you are able to help kids at so many different levels, whether it's for just studying solely for the ACT or SAT, or if it's like getting them kind of off to a really healthy start in their learning as little ones, or hey, maybe it's college. Everything was easy in high school. Suddenly they're in college math and they're like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love that you have this breadth of options to support kids at whatever level that they need. I think that's really, really cool. So it sounds like when what you told me before, but I think you can share with all of us because some of these parents might be really interested in kind of maybe taking the step to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said that you guys do like a free consultation.
Mm-hmm. So, in order to book with us, I encourage all parents starting out just so they can get a good understanding, So I ask all parents to book a free consultation first, which is with me. We meet, we talk about, what are their issues, what things are stressing them out, how can we help them? And then I pair them with a tutor, whether it's me or one of my other tutors. And then, I tell them about our subscription plans. We have as needed or we have subscription plans where students can come either once or twice a week and they pay like a monthly fee, and they can get help all throughout the year. So, yeah, that's the process. You just book a free consultation to get started and we go from there. And people always tell me, parents are like, oh my gosh, you did a really good job of pairing. But I'm fortunate to say that the tutors that I have, they all absolutely love what they do. And so that makes it easy, to pair them up depending on the subject and, where they need help.
I love that. So, can you just to kind of round things out, can you
Mhm.
share with us cuz again, this is my group is about empowering women and having women feel really good in their own skin and feel like they like my little tagline is own their magnificence. And I love this idea about, like you just like suddenly you're like, I've been tutoring kind of here and there, but to become a business owner, I mean,
Mhm.
that takes a certain set of, armor.
Mhm.
Can you just share a little bit about like, I think you sort of stumbled into it. You're like, okay, and then suddenly you're running full steam ahead. Can
Mhm.
you just share any of your nuggets about how um how this process has been for you and what you've noticed about your own personal growth?
Ooh, so I've grown a lot since opening a business. You got to have some kind of daring spirit, and determination deep down, some sort of little fire that drives you like, I can do this, right? And then, like I said, now I'm at the point where because I've experienced so many things through life, but owning a business alone, you know, things go wrong. And what I've realized is that's why I know this is my passion because when things go wrong, I'm still doing it. you know, I'm still pushing through. Like, okay, cool. I put out fires. That's fine. It's a normal thing now. That's a part of business. Um, you have to, yeah, you have to be okay with being uncomfortable because that's where the growth is. Like, you got to do things that you're afraid to do. Like, like I said, I'm an introvert, right? So doing webinars and speaking to people and that didn't used to be my thing, but I'm getting more, comfortable with it. So this past summer, I was like, I'm gonna have a free webinar. And I did it. I was so scared. Like, I don't know how people are gonna receive this. It was about virtual learning, how to be a successful virtual learner. And I only had maybe, I don't know, 10 people that was live. I had 20 people sign up, but only 10 that actually came to the live session. And their feedback was like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing this. I had more people, like my grand opening, I had more people sign up this year, beginning of the year, than I did last year. And so it worked out. And so it's like growth is on the other side of that fear. So whatever, find you something that scares you to death and do that thing. And I promise you're gonna feel really great about it. Like you're not gonna feel bad. And so now, like if things go wrong, if I'm scared or uncomfortable, I'm like, cool, let's do this because I know I'm about to grow. And you kind of got to have that attitude every single day. We're human though, we all get down sometimes. There are times where I was like, I'm about to quit because people get on my nerves, and then it was like, nope, it's not about me now.
Mm-mm.
It's more than me. I have tutors, the kids that we tutor, the parents. If I told some of these parents, well, we're gonna close, that's it. When the pandemic hit, if I said we're not gonna operate anymore because, they would have been like, no, oh my gosh, we need, and so it's like, oh, it's more than me, you know. And so you got to, especially with kids, you're in the business of serving. So it's in whatever way you can help people, you keep doing that and good will come to you. The blessings will come. I'm not gonna lie, there's been a couple months where tutoring was paid for by me for some students. Cool, I get it back, it's fine. We're gonna get some new paying clients anyway. So things will work out if you just stay consistent. Being consistent and listening too. You got to be able to take criticism. You know, I've been called unprofessional once, and I learned a lot from it. I had a parent sign up for tutoring. I told them I tutor in an office space here. I don't make house calls. The lady changed up my pricing model. She wanted me to come to her house. They didn't have any internet or anything in the house, but I went. I worked with the child. I figured out she didn't know her multiplication tables. I had her write out her multiplication tables on a sheet of paper. You want to know what the parent said? We thought that was unprofessional. I said, thank you. I hope y'all find what you're looking for. And so I found out that day, don't ever let anybody change up your model. You do what you've been doing, okay? Because that's what's working. And I also found that everybody is not my client. Everybody's not my client. And that's fine. I can't help everybody anyway. It's impossible. There have been some parents, I'm like, hey, there's varsity tutors and there's this other tutoring company because we can't help you. And so it's just, be able to take criticism, be able to learn from your mistakes. Growth is on the other side of fear and being uncomfortable.
I think those are perfect. And I think, I don't do what you do, but it's all so similar, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
I always say, like, if you are going to be an entrepreneur or, own a business or something, it's like a spiritual practice because
Yeah.
it's like it gets you in ways that you can't even imagine when you just work for somebody else. Because when you just work with somebody else, there's like a divide where you can not that you aren't really full in on that job or
Hmm.
whatever the career, that's not to say that, but there is like some level of you can kind of let a lot of stuff go because you don't own the
Hmm.
company or you're not the face of the company. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so I really do appreciate all the things that you mentioned. And I think that for anyone who is ready to dive into taking something on, it's going to kind of um, work on your whole system and it's going to point out the areas that are tender and that might need a little more toughening up,
Hmm.
and it's also
Hmm.
going to turn on those spotlights on those areas where you're like, I am rooted in my knowing that this is how I do my business and I know that it works this way, and that means that I'm going to turn you away because
Hmm.
you are not a good fit, and that is okay because the right person will come, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I really appreciate this whole conversation and I love what you're doing. And I think that not only are these kids getting so much wonderful assistance and support, it's just going to be transforming lives. And especially with the way your individual outlook is about making sure that they get their needs met exactly where they are, and sharing with them that they are, they can do it and it will come together. And, getting those connections and figuring out how to research and think independently. I think you're doing
Yes.
amazing things, and I'm so appreciative of having you on today and you sharing your experience as a business owner as well as a tutor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. One last thing I want to point out though
Yes,
is,
yes.
some people, they think like self-help is kind of cliche, like, okay. No, it's like whatever you have, like a morning or night routine, or if you listen to audio books, or if you're reading self-help books, or if you're reading scripture, doing devotion or meditating or whatever that is, you have to stay consistent in that, especially being a business owner, relying on yourself and keeping that faith in yourself and what you're doing. You have to consistently feed your mind those good things, or else it's so easy for you to get off track, and start doubting yourself, because doubt is sitting right there. Like, oh, okay, you didn't meditate today. Okay, here I come.
Yes.
And it takes the least little thing or somebody saying something, and you're like, your whole day is just shot. And that's because you didn't start out with those daily affirmations,
The
or
mindset is so
yeah,
important.
like you have to, whatever you're doing, you got to believe it in your mind first before you can actually do it, you know,
That makes me
mentally.
laugh because it makes me think about, like, I asked in this particular group too, I think I asked this, but I was like, "What's your theme song?" Mine is like that Rocky song, dun, 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 it's
Okay.
like I just gotta keep going,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Um, so where can we find you?
On Instagram, it's underscore academic coach. It's all one word. Underscore academic coach on Instagram. All of my links are there. I'm also on Facebook, tailored to your learning dash TTYL. I also have a page there where you can find us and message us, schedule your free consultations. If you'd like to get some help for your household, let us relieve some of your stress.
Yay.
um, so yeah, I'd be glad to work with any of you. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at underscore academic coach.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.